Alright. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to figure out who the hell is going to win the World Championship. We're going to be doing a tier list. We have the 18 qualified players down here. Serral's face is half cut off, as is Shin's, because I've clipped the 4,000 advertisements on this site. I really should have just done this one in Photopea or Photoshop, but I was too lazy, so I used TierMaker. I also signed up to one of their premium subscriptions to remove the ads. I paid $2 for it. Guess what? It didn't remove the ads. So I immediately unsubscribed and instead just clipped the edges of my screen off, which right now have 17 mobile games and random banners all around them, but you don't have to see it. Haha! Take that, evil internet advertisements. Anyways, I don't know why we're rambling. Let's go through and talk about the players. Astrea is obviously going to win the entire tournament. And when I say win the entire tournament, I mean be the #1 player from America placing in the tournament, which essentially means only one thing, and that is that he's going to place higher than Trigger. There's only 2 Americans in the tournament, him and Trigger. I mean, Trigger's Canadian, but, you know, American as in Americas. Unfortunately, there's no Latin American players, Central or Southern, that managed to qualify for the tournament. But yeah, no, Astrea, honestly, if we think about Astrea's chances, I'd say at the moment, expectation would be about B tier. Astrea has some of the most hot moments. His builds are always fantastic and genius. The question is always, is Astrea going to be able to hold up under pressure? Is Astrea going to be able to finish off series against the top dogs and that sort of things? I think he has really good power, but when it comes to the intensity and pace, there are certain players that are just going to be very difficult for him to beat. Guys like Byun, guys like Clem. Fast-paced Terran play, going to be difficult. I think, however, Astrea matches up really well against your Qers, your Hero Marines, your Lambos. I think pretty much everyone outside of the top 3 players and a few very fast-paced guys like Byun, he could do very well against. I think a fascinating matchup would be Solar. Solar against Astrea would be really interesting because classically Solar has vicious timing attacks, but the problem is going to be always that Astrea seems to have PvZ on relative lockdown right now, but it really comes down to what form he brings on the day. I'm going to put him in a solid B tier right now. A player who definitely can beat, you know, I would say he's favored to beat a bunch of the guys at the bottom of these top 18 players, but he's not really favored to make it into the top 8. Great point from Anakatos. Astrea's PvT didn't look in form recently. Guess what? Yes, it did. It looked amazing. He looked god tier. Clem barely beat him. Stomped Byun, Gumiho, and Ryung super awesomely. With that Turtle Storm kind of Tempest Cannon battery style. Awesome style. Problem, just the other day in our weekly cup, he got absolutely waffle stomped by Byun, just playing aggressive builds and shoving in there, and he kind of got overrun there as well. So, you know, he's had moments where he still looks a little fragile. I think for Astrea, right now, he's very good with that Storm style, but he doesn't have a massive depth of experience with it, number 1. He knows that it got so much publicity a week or 2 ago, so all the players are mentally prepared to face it and counter it, number 2. And number 3, he just likes to play with a lot of range. Astrea is a surprise strategy gamer rather than a guy who just focuses on execution. So that's why the last week or so, he's been going back to Colossus almost every single game. Lots of his classic 2-gate blink opening. He loves to do the Sentry Hallucination Scout and kind of get out there, scout across the map, go for Colossus, and then a 3rd base, and defend with like the bare minimum of units. And that's why, like I said, guys like Byun, just getting on top of him and overwhelming him, I do think it's going to be hard as well, because I think guys like Cure will recognize, hey, he's being kind of on that borderline of greed, and these guys, I think, are going to be really trying to take him down with timing attacks. All right, guys, next up we have Byun. Now, Byun is absolutely an S-tier player who sits just outside of the top 3 players when it comes to his online performance. Unfortunately, of course, we know the EWC Esports World Cup is a LAN tournament. It's going to be in person, which means he's going to get nervous. His wrists are going to tense up. He's going to feel intense pain the longer series goes, and he will make more and more mistakes. What gives me... I am very torn on Byun, because is he like an A-? I think an A-, kind of just above guys like Astrea, is where he would normally fit. Recently, though, there's something I do not know how to read about Byun's play. He is YOLOing. Every single game Byun is playing is like jam it in, shove, crazy aggression. It is like the most obscene aggression. And I think it might beat everybody except Clem, Serral, and Hero. And even Hero, he might be able to get through with. Like, it's such an element of chaotic madness that he's playing with, and that's Byun's kind of best style. It's given the most successes over the years. The question is, do you still have faith in that in 2025 Byun? Where you could argue, is his micro as far ahead of everyone as it used to be? Maybe not, right? Are his mechanics able to hold up with the wrist pain as that starts to flare up, the longer games go and the longer series go? That's where things get really, really awkward for him. And we saw last year at the Esports World Cup, Byun got really good leads. Like, we're talking massive leads on other Terran players, and he kept on throwing games. So yeah, guys, this match is from 2024 World Cup. Byun could have won this 3-0. He ended up losing 2-3. Oliveira made multiple comebacks from terrible positions. It did feel like he was playing a little overly aggressive. And that's the thing, is if you run into one of those very top guys, that same stuff that allows you to roll over someone like Astrea, who just has these tiny chinks in the armor, and you just get him with just too much aggression in too many places and he can't quite keep up, often that's going to make it look like you're going to throw leads away against your Marus, against your Oliveiras when he's in top 4, against your Serrals. So I have mixed feelings about Byun. I think he could do incredibly well, but history says he's probably going to be a bit more towards B+ or A-. For now, he has to be above Astrea. So we'll keep him in A tier, and we'll adjust, of course, as this list goes on. All right, guys, I'm actually going to shift these guys down, because thinking about it, if we have top 3 is S tier, if you want to go there. A is top 6. B takes us to, like, say, rank, let's say, top 10. And then C is up to top 14. And then D tier is, like, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. It's your bottom 4 players in the tournament. That's kind of like a rough way we can do this. It doesn't mean you're a D tier player. It means you are the D tier of the top 18 guys in the World Championship. So I think that makes a lot of sense for the ranking system. All right, guys, we've got Classic next. Oh, God, where do we put Classic? I feel like Classic could go out in last place in this tournament on a bad day. On a good day, he could get top 3. He might even be ticking on S tier. I mean, like, I'm going to put him in kind of A- right now. I think Classic, there's a few things you got to look at. His ability to beat Serral recently and just knuckle down and beat him in late game is so friggin' impressive. And that is such a big thing where, like, if he plays mostly Zergs, Classic is pretty favored against most of them, right? He's just so friggin' good at Starcraft. So it's hard to, you know, put him any lower than A tier. On the other hand, if we look at Classic over the last 6 months, it's been like, I feel like he's like, oh my God, he's the best Protoss. And then, like, the next tournament, he always kind of crashes down. It's kind of almost like a rogue style, like, wins a tournament, crashes out first round. Wins a tournament, crashes out first round. So there's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to Clem. All right, guys, so chat's told me Classic apparently did defeat Clem in RSL as well. 3-1. I did not see this result, guys. This was a few days ago. I somehow missed this one. That's really big. Beating Byun and Clem, really huge recent result. If you add that, honestly, and there's no max packs in this tournament, holy crap. If he doesn't run into Hero, because I think Hero is still favored against him, yeah, he's like A+ right now. His current form is A+. He is like on the edge of S tier right now. Actually insane if he can keep that form up. All right, guys, next up we have our reigning world champion, Clem. I think Clem has to go in S tier. I think the biggest Achilles heel, right, of Clem is very obvious, and that is Terran players. Right now, yes, Clem is very good against Terran, but what if he has to play against Maru PVT? Because he hasn't played any TVT recently. He just hasn't. When was the last time Clem played a TVT? It was before this patch. It was like 8 months ago. He is not going to be playing Terran against Terran in this tournament. So I think he's very favored versus most Protoss and Zerg players. Zerg especially. I think he's unstoppable against Zerg, with Serral and Reynor being the 2 guys who are like 30% chances against him if they're playing well and he's playing poorly. Like, if he's playing, if Clem has a good day and Serral or Reynor has an off day, they have no chance of beating him in a TVZ. Like, it's just not going to happen with how good he is in that matchup. Protoss players have a chance. Terran players are going to be the biggest problem. And the reason is, even though he's dominated in a lot of best of 3s and best of 5s, your Qers, your Byuns, a lot of good Terran players, he hasn't played against Maru that much. A guy like Big Gabe could surprise him. You know, don't sleep on Big Gabe. Because he hasn't played a lot of PvT against Big Gabe. And Big Gabe will go into this tournament with 0 expectations and will just pull out weird timing attacks, that you don't see outside of 5.3k ladder. Like there will be weird builds, and Clem just doesn't have a decade of PvT top pro gamer experience. He got crushed in a grand finals against Cure. He lost a grand finals to Gumiho, both playing PvT. He recently lost, I think it was in RSL. He also dropped a PvT to Byun as well, I believe. So I think the Terran players are the scariest thing. We still have to put Clem in S tier, but funnily enough, he needs to dodge his own race because that is the most inconsistent part of his game. But I think these Korean Protoss players have shown they are very good at hiding what their build is and just overwhelming him. So for Clem, finding a balance against those two Protoss players, that's going to be, I would say, his second weak point in that he's favored against Classic, he's favored against Zoun, but they could beat him. If Serral or Reynor has a really good day, they could beat him, but he's still heavily favored in all those matchups, and his weakest is if he's got to play a Maru, a Byun, a Cure, one of these Terran players in PvT. Just sneaky timing attacks, weird twists on builds that show him something that he's never seen before, take him out of his realm of very limited PvT experience, are going to be the biggest chances of Clem falling early. All right, guys, next up, we've got Cure. Cure's a solid A-tier player, but I would say A- or even B+. He will outperform Byun usually in these tournaments. Cure right now is interesting because he's gotten a lot better at TVZ with the power of 8 racks, and I haven't really seen him play too much against the new Infestor style, especially on your big maps, your Maganathas, your Tokamaks. There's these bigger maps, Ultra Love. Some people like to play the Infestor style as well. I honestly have no idea how he's going to adapt against the Infestor style. Cure plays a very weird style of TVZ where he does a lot of 8 raxes, but it's not as all in as other players. Cure's weakness has always been that he can't multitask as well as like a Reynor or someone. If a Reynor can make the game really messy against him and create multitasking, Reynor's massively favored against Cure. Problem, Cure knows how to just keep the pressure on, play 8 racks. He has shown such consistency in dictating TVZ that after years of being lost in that matchup, it feels like Cure is able to take down everyone that's not Serral. And even against Serral, he's had some banger games and taken some maps recently. So I think Cure's TVZ is better than it's ever been, and that's really big for him because he is, I would say, he's fixed his biggest weakness. Now, Cure has recently lost a few series to guys like Showtime and Classic. His TVP is a little touch and go, and I think that's where we're going to see the biggest problems for Cure. I think for Cure, it's going to come down to how much he can study each opponent. I think he's a master of playing either very generic TVP, if he feels strong enough and favored, or if he thinks that's not going to work out, doing a lot of off timings, showing his opponent one thing, but then moving out of the time that doesn't quite make sense. And sometimes, like he did in that GSL finals, just pull the boys repeatedly against Hero, and that can do really well. What about Cure's TVT, Pig? Well, Maru used to be prey on him. Maru's TVT isn't good anymore. It hasn't been for a while. I think Cure is the best TVT player in the entire tournament. All right, guys, next up, we've got Big Gabe, guys. Now, Big Gabe comes into this tournament with 0 expectations. He's taken a step back from full-time play. He's been doing a bit of studying. He is lifting more than ever before. He is running more than ever before. Man's running 10Ks a day or something like that on the treadmill, hitting the gym. He seems more relaxed and like he's just having fun, living life. That's a scary hero marine. I don't know if you guys have heard, but basically Terran players are famous for playing as hard as they possibly can and crashing out of tournaments and raging about how unfair the game is. And then there's this weird effect. It's happened to so many players over the years. They go, I'm retiring, I don't care anymore. And they have the best tournament results of their life. Gabe already has had this arc multiple times over the last decade. I think it was 2017 or 2018. He said, I'm done. I can't keep competing in this game. I'm not getting good enough results. It sucks. I'm just going to play for fun, occasionally go to a tournament to screw around, whatever. I think right after he first announced that the first time and said, I'm just going to be a streamer and muck around. I think it was like an Austin or a Dallas or something. One of these American tournaments made it to the finals where I think he barely lost to True. And we were like, what? You're not meant to make it to grand finals. So I think Gabe is kind of a player who's a bit dangerous. Before the 8 racks era as well, before everyone started spamming 8 racks, remember guys, Katowice 2022, he made it to the top 4 of the World Championship, spamming 8 racks all-ins and timing attacks. Lots of builds, which he normally used to play a bit more risk-averse. He was afraid of gambling. And then he basically just played with 0 care at that tournament and had the best tournament result of his entire life. So this guy has been top 4 in a World Championship before. He has no expectations. I think that could easily pop him up even as far as B tier. He might be able to get top 10 in this tournament. We're going to put him somewhere between C and D tier, maybe C tier for now. Maybe his PvT, I would imagine, is the matchup where he's probably the most frustrated. I've heard a lot of people saying that he gets frustrated on his stream about the hallucinations and different things like that at the moment, the warp in Psystorms. So that might be the matchup where you know, he's the most tiltable and the weakest. So I think for Gabe, it's just if he can just have fun, show up, and play good strategies, don't be afraid to gamble, he definitely could do quite well. Hey guys, we're on to Hero. Okay, Hero obviously is an S tier. You know, Hero is the best player in the world. Someone in chat was saying, every time I see Pig, he's just talking about how Hero's bad and he's throwing games and he's doing dumb things. There is all of my commentary of Hero is exactly the same. If you get past the fact that I criticize him, you will hear me say every cast of his, Hero is the best, worst player. He will have moments in pretty much every game where he does the most amazing things you've ever seen. And I always say, and I have to remind myself as well, he plays unpredictable, high-risk strategies. He is never bound by a firm rule set. All of his rules are fluid and they change as the game goes on. That means he is entirely unpredictable. There is no point where his opponents ever feel secure knowing you're in this position, therefore you have to do this thing. That rule never applies to Hero, and it creates a psychological impact. If you guys are MMA fans and you've watched your Yuri Prohaskas or something, he's holding his wrists, he's doing this, he's putting his hands behind his back, he's just friggin' derping around the ring. Is that technically good fighting? No! Is it effective? Because his opponent's like, what the frig are you doing? Yes! Until he fights, obviously, the elite of the elite and has had a few bad knockouts and he does get hit a lot. Point is, Hero's kind of like that. It creates chaos, it makes the fight messy and weird and unpredictable, and he flows in that really well, but it comes with a cost. He will throw advantages a lot, where there are very clear, easy ways to hedge your bets and just secure the win. He will never do that. He'll very rarely hedge and secure the win, right? This is a man who can make more money than he's ever made in the casino, and he will just go over to the roulette table and put everything on red because he's like, well, if I win, I'll double my money before I leave tonight. And you're like, but you've already made millions of dollars. Just leave. Hero is not that player. He will never be that player. And that's why he could go out in the top 16. That's just who Hero is. But if Hero is switched on, he is just so bloody good. And last year at the World Cup, he showed that. Hero had a pretty sick run getting through the bracket. And yes, he lost to Clem 0-4 last year in the World Championship. But dude, he had some bangers getting there. Beating Reynor, almost beating Serral. You know, a couple of times was really cool as well. And then having to play through the entire knockout bracket. Hero is the people's hero in many ways. I think he's always someone we should kind of expect to have high potential to get top 4. I think one of his biggest risks is kind of like the Maru style Terran players. There are a lot of times in TVP where even if the opponent's very all in, Hero will kind of mind game himself and think they're playing a macro game even when he scouts an obvious all in. And he'll just kind of keep macroing. He'll drop double forge in the face of an SCV pull and throw games that way. If he can just minimize those throws, honestly, like, who are the big threats? Obviously, Serral is always a favorite to beat Hero in late game because Hero doesn't have that much patience. But it really depends how the early mid game flows. And, you know, if Hero plays really clean, he's meant to be taking him down. Reynor has been practicing some fantastic play, but I just don't know if Reynor can get to the mid game without struggling against Hero's crazy dynamic openings. Maru, I think, is probably the scariest thing for him because Maru will sometimes he just seems to read Hero's mind and just play the most effective strats. Feels like Maru always wins 3-1 roughly in their head-to-head series. So I'd say those three are the biggest threats for Hero. All right, guys, next up we've got Lambo from Shopify Rebellion. Lambo, one of the last qualifiers. I think he was really gutted to barely not qualify and came as an analyst last year, which I loved because I learnt a lot of stuff watching Clem's games last year with Lambo. So these were kind of like the last 4 guys to qualify. You could argue therefore, you just chuck them in the lowest tier. They're the ones who are most likely to, you know, not go that far. Let's talk about it. So Lambo, I think, you know, is so interesting because I actually think he's favored against Shin. The question for me is like, who's Lambo favored against? Because like, there's lots of players he can beat here. I think him versus Astrea is a really interesting match. I think Lambo is going to come out with very clever, well-prepared builds that he has not shown. Like, I think if he plays the S-tier guys, it's going to be really hard. But I think he actually does have... He has a puncher's chance against your classics, against your cures, especially with the clever builds he can bring out. It really comes to how big his Rolodex of builds is and how well he can execute under pressure. He's not quite on that same mechanical level of your Clems and your Reynors who are just so much faster than anybody else. But I think he's like, with the preparation and the focus he's putting to this tournament, I think he's going to be hungry. I'm going to keep him in D tier for now, but I'd say a D+, and he could even cross all the way over to B tier, because I think the way he's going to play is going to be a lot more inspired in terms of build order decision making than what we've seen recently out of your Serrals, your Reynors, your Rogues. I think I'm going to learn a lot and copy his builds from this tournament and dominate the ladder with them. Whether or not he can actually beat these top guys in the world, though, is another story. Next, guys, we've got my boy, Cyan, aka Lancer. He's changed his name to Lancer. Now, Lancer is Chinese, and China is next to Korea. So you automatically get put in A tier because they can just get kimchi from, like, it's like a ferry trip away. It's great. If you have kimchi in your diet, you get to practice on the Asian server with all the Korean players, you're just better at Starcraft. This is something that people know about for a long time. No, he has multiple kids, but his passion has been reignited. What's cool about Cyan is he renamed himself to Lancer, and he's tried to refocus on Starcraft, especially with Oliveira retiring. And he said, hey, look, there's a gap in the scene. I can at least dominate the domestic Chinese scene if I get to that next level. He's a very good Protoss player, and I can, you know, maybe have that crazy moonshot run like Oliveira. That being said, I don't think there's many expectations for him against such steep opposition. I think multitasking-wise, he's going to be a little bit below most of the level of opposition here at the World Championship. He got through partially due to a match-fixing scandal where the player who actually qualified, Firefly, did get kind of removed from the chance to compete in the tournament. So they removed him, and Lancer comes in as a substitute. Man's fighting to put some extra food on the table for his family and his kids. I think he will bring some of that dad energy and some very good builds, but he's going to be hard-pressed to make it to the top 15. All right, guys, next up we have Serral. Now, Serral should obviously be an S tier if we look at history, but remember, this is a tournament happening right now at this moment in time, and due to the gross imbalance in the Starcraft scene, he probably comes in at best at B tier, just due to Zerg being unplayable right now. Obviously, I'm trolling. He's S tier for sure. He won Masters Coliseum. He won Pigsty Festival, defeating Clem there and a bunch of other top players. He did lose Big Luli Cup. Max Pax eliminated him from Big Luli Cup in a close series. This was kind of back in like January time. That's a while back. At Dallas, he did get upset and taken down by Classic. I'd say that is the most worrying series, the series against Classic, because what happened in that series against Classic, guys, is Serral was a little sloppy against Adept pressure. He took more damage in the early game, he was less prepared for Classic's builds, and was making more mistakes than one would expect. And that is not what you expect from Serral. You do not expect Serral to be playing that sloppy number one, but also, even when he had a good start, what was his plan in ZVP? He just went to late game. It's rare to see Serral play such conservative and I would say uninspired PvZ. I get he can win late game, and if he feels he's forced to go there, he will just drag it out to late game and try to eke it out. He also was a little bit off on getting his units feedback. It's just worrying because there's a lot of good Protoss players in this tournament. You've got Zoun, who's really good late game as well. You've got Hero, you've got Classic, even your Showtimes and Astreas have very good late game PvZ. I think Serral will be playing this tournament, especially against the heroes and the guys who he's really afraid of in Classics, a lot more like Lambo. I think we're going to see a lot of timing attacks, a lot of Nidus Worms, a lot of like Queen Walks or Queen Drop All-Ins. I do think Serral will be looking for quite a few of those finishing blows, but as always, it's going to come down to how well he studied his opponents and figured out the openings. His biggest weakness is obviously going to be Clem. Clem is a huge problem for Serral. Serral comes in with a lot of tricks, a lot of special plans. Despite that, it is very hard to beat Clem in a best of 5, a best of 7, or a best of 9. In a best of 3, I think I might even favor Serral. But the bigger the series gets, the harder it is to finish Clem off, because it feels like Clem just has crazy endurance and can just keep playing. That being said, with recent really clever infestor usage and that sort of stuff, I think Serral is looking really good. And I think he should go ahead of Hero here as well, historically. But I think Clem, number 1 in this category. Likewise, I think we'll order it kind of... The order in the category, left to right, shows like where you belong in that tier. So yeah, I think that's pretty fair. He is the greatest of all time. It's going to be a while until Clem kind of dethrones him. I think we're at a moment where we're kind of seeing, you know, Clem is the Nadal to Serral's Federer. Federer still has a lot more results and is still considered the greatest of all time, even though Nadal, aka Clem, has a very good winning record against him recently. Yeah, that's going to be the way it is. Djokovic is easily the greatest of all time, Emperor Zerg, but I'm talking like I don't know, 2010, 2012, like peak Federer, Nadal. Before Djokovic had, about 2015, Djokovic had kind of, you know, overtaken him. I could be wrong. I'm not the biggest tennis. I'm a very casual tennis fan, guys. All right, guys, we've got Maru. Now, where the hell do we put Maru? Maru recently won Dallas, so you'd think he goes in S tier. Does he really? We got to check the timer. I'm thinking Maru, I don't think I can put him below A tier. What I'm worried about with Maru, because I really don't know where to put Maru, guys. I have no idea. Dallas was a great performance by him. Let's check it. Let's check it. What were his matches at Dallas? Because there was a few really impressive ones. I just can't remember who he beat. All right, guys. So if we look at Dallas, Maru beating Hero was really good. He did a lot of good all-ins, good timing attacks. He did the same thing against Classic. I think he showed really good all-in play. The scary thing for Maru is that he hasn't recently shown any good macro TVP that I can think of off the top of my head. It's almost all been 2-base timings. And the thing is, it feels like that's maybe not that big of a problem because he can hit you so hard at 4 minutes or so hard at 8.5 minutes. And there's enough range within there. It's not like if you're a player who only all-ins between 5 and 7 minutes, it's much easier for someone to blind counter you. But Maru has such range, and he's also got so many clever openings like Widow Mines into Banshees, or Widow Mines into Ravens, or Hellion. Like, he has so much range in the early game. You might be able to actually just beat every Protoss player in the tournament purely with that sort of, you know, 2-base timing attack and just layered harassment sort of stuff. The one thing that might be lacking in TVP is depth of strategy, right? If players start metagaming you. That's one thing I'm worried about for Maru in TVP. TVZ, I don't know where his TVZ stands because Maru played some genius build orders against Solar in this finals. Problem. Solar played very generic. Maru played extreme greed. We're talking command center first. It was 8 racks almost every single game. And Solar played very generic, never scouted the 8 racks, and just, it didn't feel like Solar put Maru in deep water at many points in that series. It felt like Maru had a lead almost every game. He was just doing almost bomber style, just rushing to 3 command centers, fastest double upgrades you've ever seen into the fastest 2-2 8 racks you've ever seen. And like, I love the build orders for Maru, but TVZ is not just about build orders. It's probably the most mechanical execution focused match in Starcraft. So what I'd love to see is, how does he face off against a guy like Reynor? All right, guys, so if we look at Maru's results in the last month and a bit, he lost 0-2 to Solar and 0-2 to Gumiho, crashed out in GSL Season 2. I think this was right after Dallas. Hasn't played any other games, obviously hiding his builds, trying to make sure he's as big of a surprise as possible. The thing is, like I said, we just don't have a lot of information. Advantage? Neither do his opponents. He's, like Serral, hidden most of his builds recently. On the other hand, he looked really bad. He actually didn't play TVT here. This was a PVT. His PVT did not look good. Maru should be playing PVT. I hope he's gone back to TVT and he's kind of fixed that matchup up. Yeah, I think Maru has to go in A tier. He had a really good Dallas run. I think his TVP looks menacing. There is the fear of him not having the range. TVT is a huge question mark. Like I said, I think Kua has the best TVT right now. Is a month or 2 of hard practice going to allow Maru to go back to God status in TVT? Historically, he's dominated everyone in TVT. With hard practice, he should be able to get back there and get above Kua in that regard. Can he beat any of the Zergs that aren't Solar or Lambo? Like, can he beat even Shin or Rogue? There's a lot of Zergs in this tournament, and I have no idea how he's going to perform against them. He's historically had Solar's number. I think that is a very special matchup of 2 teammates for many years, 2 close friends. And I feel like I need more information about how Maru holds up in a fast-paced TVZ. Because if we go back a couple months to Pigfest, he move commanded his entire army. He like right-clicked his whole army onto creep, and they move commanded. He accidentally clicked on a hatchery. His whole army move commanded through banelings. And whenever he got counterattacked and there was multitasking situations, it felt like he was so off his game. And that was just a few months ago. The question is, has Maru put enough practice in to get back up? Is a few months of practice after such a long layoff enough to get him back to that top caliber? DreamHack Dallas seems to say yes, but you have to realize that the hero win was the most impressive. The fact that Serral, Reynor, Clem all got eliminated in the round of 8, it was a tournament bracket that was a little bit easier for him. I'm kind of halting here because I know people are just going to say, you hate Maru, you always down talk Maru, but no, I think this is fair now. I'm kind of like, you know, auditing my own thought process. I'm like, am I being unfair to Maru? I don't know. If I am, you guys let me know what I'm missing. But like I said, big question marks. He's been hiding his builds. I think he belongs at the very top of A tier. All right, guys, Rogue comes up next. Rogue, where the hell do we put Rogue? I have no idea. Rogue is, oh my, I mean, he's got to go somewhere around Byun. Rogue has some of the most amazing games and strategies you've ever seen. But he also kind of just struggles sometimes. I think, okay, we did see him fix his ZVP openings. For a while, Rogue's openings sucked, and then he fixed his ZVP openings, and he got a lot better in the matchup. But it still feels like he doesn't quite have the killer instinct in kind of the late mid-game period, where I'd really like him to finish games off a bit more, whereas sometimes it's often just he's just kind of rallying Roach Hydra and just hitting a very basic timing. He did make it to the GSL finals, which was really impressive. You know what? Actually, if you think about this GSL finals where he lost to Classic, he had some really clever builds, and it felt like he ran out of builds in the best of 7. Because the last couple of games, he just macroed and then he just played Hydrabane, right? He got to the kind of build-up stage and he was like, okay, it's 85 drone Hydrabane, and he was doing good surrounds, but it got very predictable, and like Classic was like, well, I'm just gonna lay a cannon battery and Psystorm and just like do the retreating Psystorm unbreakable. If Rogue comes in with enough more strategies, because his openings were much better in this series than what we'd seen in previous months, and that was his biggest weakness, is he was often playing ZVP from behind. Question is, will it be enough to hold up against the heroes? Well, he 3-1'd hero in that tournament as well. I don't know. I have no idea. I think he has moments of greatness. He also gets 3-1'd by Creator a month ago. He did lose a very close 3-2 to Byun recently. Really close series. I think Rogue is a bit of a mixed bag because he does have these great highs, but he also does just get overwhelmed sometimes. Zoun, he looked lost against Zoun in the Korean qualifiers for the Esports World Cup a month ago. Looked like he had no idea what to do against Zoun's playstyle. So for Rogue, it really comes down to, has he had enough time to study enough builds? Because I feel like Rogue plays his best StarCraft when he can surprise his opponents. When Rogue can get in there and surprise his opponents, he definitely goes above Byun. He could go in A tier if he's on a, like, he could be C tier on a bad day. On a good day, he's like top of A tier, like above Maru, right? Easily above Maru on a good day. But I think like a little bit more variable, which is why I think maybe bottom of A tier for, I don't know. Like I said, for Rogue, I think it really turns up how much faith he has in his builds. Does he have enough range of builds? Because if he feels like he can surprise his opponents, he will play amazing StarCraft. If he doesn't feel he can surprise his opponents, it's going to be really hard. Wow, Rogue B tier, that's brutal. It's not B tier. How is that brutal? That's top 10 in the world. That's top 10 in the world. This is top 18 players in the world. If you're in the middle of the pack of the top 18 players in the world, that's not brutal. That's really good. Right now, Rogue's not even in the top 10 when it comes to rating, guys. He's ranked 13. This list doesn't lie that much. It's pretty, I'm rating him a little bit higher than that, at like more about like rank 10, rank 9, something like that here. Like I said, kind of bottom of A, top of B. This is actually, I think, a very fair ranking. All right, guys, next up, we've got Shin. Oh, jeez. I have so many questions about the Zergs because it's so much about where their confidence is right now. Zergs are not feeling confident in two main areas. Number one, 8 racks against Terran. Shin revolutionized a bit with the Infestor build and stuff, but they're all going to know about the Infestor into Ultra Rush. The Baneling styles, certain maps, it feels like the Zergs are really going to struggle. The bigger the series get, especially if you get to best of 9s, where you're playing in Corporeal and Pylon and these maps with just these brutal 8 racks push paths, even Ultra Love to a certain extent, it's just really, really hard. I think Shin has some of the most inspired, clever build orders to get damage sometimes, but I think Zerg right now doesn't have a lot of aggressive options, and that hurts Shin more than other players. His best tournament runs over recent years have been Roach pushes that get damage in the early game, and then he snowballs and gets into like massive Baneling waves later on. I think Shin probably belongs somewhere in B tier. I'm going to put him above Byun just because of, remember, the reason I'm not trying to put Byun low, guys, is just that Byun underperforms at live tournaments, which is why he very well could be down here in the C tier. Yeah, I think Shin's a very good Zerg player. Definitely could make top 8. I don't know why. I feel like he's not going to have enough builds. It's more of an instinct. I don't really have evidence for this other than we haven't seen that much play from Shin recently. Okay, if we look at Shin recently, guys, he has a nice 3-1 over Byun. He lost 3-1 to Classic, or 1-3, I should say. Lost 1-3 to Cure, beat Hero 3-1. It's a real mixed bag. Lost 1-3 to Hero, beat Classic 2-1, beat Byun 2-1, lost to Byun 1-4. Like, the last month, he's had some good results. It's a mixed bag. We're going to put him in that middle tier. All right, guys, next up, we've got Reynor. Reynor is in the A tier. Reynor has had a few series recently. He 4-0'd Clem. To his 2 best of 3s back-to-back in the Monday Night Weekly. Looked fantastic doing it. He's mixing in some all-ins, which is really nice. I think he's a little worried about mech. I think it's going to be hard for players like him and Solar to deal with mech. I think they both are going to get a bit too triggered by the Cyclones. I don't know if anyone will use mech, but that's one thing. A lot of my placing of Reynor depends on his EVP. Because recently, he's been just going to late game and trying to play macro. I hope that he is saving his all-ins. And I've said this while casting Reynor recently, if he's saving his all-ins in his back pocket to bring out at the big tournament, and he's just been trying to get good at the hard part of ZVP, the hard version, knowing some maps are inevitably going to go there, let's still try to become an expert at that, but also bring out as many timing attacks and as many cheeses as possible. He himself has said Zerg is a timing attack race now. It doesn't feel that good to play when you only have timing attacks. We expect him to bring out Lambo-style timing attacks, and I think he could do very, very well, pop off into the top 4, but he's not a shoo-in. He's just not being consistent enough for long enough to be an S-tier player recently. All right, guys, let's take a look. So he went 1-3 against Clem, 1-2 against Byun. He struggles against Byun, and even Cure, I think, recently got him. Yeah, Cure got him in RSL as well. Down Harstem, he did 3-0 Hero. I didn't watch that series. I haven't seen any of the RSL games, guys, so I have no idea what happened in those games. But he also went 0-3 to Classic, like, on the same day. So this is what I'm talking about. Reynor's got flashes of brilliance right now. If he's having these results without using any of his best builds, that's like a really big confidence booster, because Zerg is a big timing attack race, right? So, you know, he beat Lemon as well in the KSL the other week, 2-0. Once again, played to late game there as well. He's been making ZVP pretty hard for himself. Like, I think overall Reynor's form is definitely peaking. He's been working really hard. He belongs in this A tier and could very easily be above Maru at the top. But due to, you know, the inconsistency over the last few months, the highs, the lows, I'm just going to put him somewhere in the middle here of A tier. Reynor's biggest weakness is actually this next guy, Solar. Solar made it to the finals of Thingo, is a very consistent player. Solar is the nightmare for every Zerg player in this tournament. Reynor does not want to play against Solar at all. He doesn't want to play against Serral either. So these two players, I would say I would massively favor against him, even though his series against Solar are very close. It feels like Solar plays without fear and Reynor plays with fear in ZVZ. And that's the problem. Like, Solar is actually so strong in ZVZ because he plays exactly like Su used to play. He just picks his timing attacks. He optimizes them. Oh, you scouted it. He changes it slightly to something that's a little bit sneakier, but it's always, he's just pivoting between pre-planned timing attacks. Whereas it feels like Reynor is often going back to treading water and going, ooh, should I go this way or that way? It feels like Reynor is like actively he's trying to make the best decision in such a fast-paced knife fight of a ZVZ. Sometimes it's better to not think and it's just to stab, and if that stab gets parried, stab somewhere else. Don't ever swap to a defensive stance. Just keep attacking or going for a slightly later attack. Solar looks so composed in that matchup. He can beat Serral. He is favored over every other Zerg except Serral. Him and Serral are pretty, I would say, like, it's a scary match for Serral. In terms of the Terran players, Reynor is the biggest nightmare for every Terran in this tournament. The reason you could put Reynor up the top is because Reynor has been on fire in ZVT. A lot of Zergs, if you look at their creep spread today in 2025 and you compare it to 2021, 2022, when Reynor first revolutionized creep spread and splitting queens and stuff, it's much slower. Zerg seem to have, because of the Reaper aggression, the 2-Rex Reaper, and just certain builds, Zerg seem to be a bit more focused on just being a bit more controlled and tight in their play. Reynor still has this like loose, risky, heavy droning, crazy fast creep spread play. If the Terrans make any mistakes against him, he will get out of control. His creep will extrapolate, and I think he's a real big problem for everyone, including Clem, to face off against. But I think that ZVZ is a big problem for him, and ZVP is the question mark. So I'm going to put him in A tier for now. Could make great things happen. I think he would expect himself to place at least top 8, maybe even top 4. But we'll put him here in A tier. I expect him to be top 8. All right, guys, Solar's in A tier, making it to the finals of Dallas, having some good results recently. Problem, ZVT does not look inspired. I don't think Solar can take a map off Clem. That's not unusual if you're a Zerg player, but I just don't think he stands a chance against Clem. I don't think he stands a chance against Maru. And he's struggling against your Qs and your Byuns of this world. So ZVT is actually a problem for Solar. I've seen Solar play a little bit of the Roach into Infestor style recently, some 15-15 builds. He doesn't look as confident with those build orders. It feels like he might not have enough experience to bring that style into the World Championship. Solar has for many years been an expert in essentially one Ling Bane style. often into Hydras, or sometimes skipping the Hydras, going for the Hydra, going for the Lurkers, the Vipers. That's the style Solar plays and loves, and it is just really hard to make it work against 8 racks at the moment, especially there are some really good 8 racks push paths on some of these maps. I don't know if Solar has a different style he can play. I think he's also a little bit too defensive as a player. Because of that, people are very confident cutting corners and being greedy against him. He at most does 1 Bane Bust in a best of 5, and often recently I feel like he's even skipped out on doing that, right? The Ling Floods or the Bane Busts. It feels like Solar might be just a little bit too predictable, and that's fine if you're dominating the macro games, but I think that's going to be really hard. I think Solar's still really dangerous in ZVZ, like I said, one of the scariest. I think his ZVP is also dangerous for timing attacks, but Solar doesn't have very good late game in ZVP, which means he is kind of like really, you maybe win with your first lurker timing. That's the latest kind of power spike where I feel confident in Solar as a player, but he's been really good at mixing in some mass muta surprises to add variety to his playstyle, which I think is good. I also like that sometimes he'll go Hydras. You just build a couple Hydras to make it look like a ground style, deny scouting, and he goes mass muta once again. So I think Solar's mutas are the secret to his success in ZVP. He's very good with mutalist swaps, but that's only something he wants to do occasionally. Most of the time, it's going to be a Roach Max or a faster Queen drop Roach all in. He loves his +1 melee, Ravager Ling, Queen push. He's going to be doing a lot of those. Players that play against Solar will come into this tournament with strategies designed to stop those Queen drops. A lot of it's going to be about just how clean and tight his early game is. If he gets leads in the early game, he'll still have a high chance of making it work. If he falls behind in the early game, he's going to fall off. So I think it's going to be difficult with his limited strategic range in ZVP, but his execution will always be very good. Next up is D Mauer, guys. Big Showtime. Where does Showtime go? I mean, Showtime, in terms, if we just cut the game off and based it on score at like the 8 or 10 minute mark, Showtime's probably an S tier player, right? Because I feel like he almost always gets ahead and gets in very good positions against even the best players in the world at a very high percentage. Problem, as always, is finishing the game off. You could argue that's a greater Protoss problem. I know guys like Astrea and sometimes Classic have the same sort of issue, but for Showtime, it feels like there are more of those missed opportunities than anyone else because he's so good at optimizing the early game. There is a big weakness. Guys like Maru always play timing attacks against guys like Showtime. They always bring out their timing attacks, and they know exactly how he's going to play because he does the same builds at a very high percentage of the time that he's optimized 1,000 times. So Showtime basically just gets killed by really specific all-ins that is designed to beat him. And the other big thing is, as it drags on, he lets games slip away. Just because the other players are so godlike in late game. Showtime's so defensively oriented, he'll get into a big lead, and then sometimes because he's so passive, he just like hugs his defenses too much, and the opponent just shoves in and gets a really good lurker position, or they get a really good lib position or something. And it's not like they really earned that position. It's just he's a little too defensive, and he's a bit too like hugging his buildings. Feels like he's kind of like Creator, 2 Protoss players. Battery Overcharge was so good for them, and they're just a little too defensive in their mindset, so they don't have a lot of ways to win the game. Think of Hero and Dark as players who have so many ways to win the game. They have so many potentially game-winning moves. They might put them a little behind if it doesn't work, but they'll have so many of these potentially game-winning moments that they just keep going for time after time that they get a lot of easy wins. Showtime never gets an easy win in his life. Showtime has never got an easy win in his life. He almost always has to arduously grind his opponent down piece by piece. And that's the downside, is it's exhausting playing Showtime style. Small lapses in focus also are lethal, because if you're playing defensive and you make a small misstep positionally, your opponent has you in a checkmate. If you're attacking and you make a misstep, usually you've got time to pull back, reposition, and reorganize. When you're playing so defensive, you don't have that. So a lot of the attacking privilege guys like Hero get, Showtime has the opposite. He has defensive advantages, but he also has the defensive weakness. Less scouting, less map vision, and more prone to a mistake leading to a instant loss rather than with an attacking player. Showtime, I'm putting him in B tier for now, because I just think overall, consistently, and how good his openings are, it would be a crime to not put him in B tier. But he's at the bottom of B tier for now, just because of how those games slip away. Then again, I think current meta, and especially if he adapts Astrea's style in PvT with the mass high Templar spread, cannons, batteries everywhere, Tempests, that style suits Showtime. Showtime could slow down and ruin the entire tournament schedule on his way to the top 8 or the top 4 of this tournament. He could totally do that if he really camps it out and just like even leans even more into that strength. Because I think PvZ, I'd say he's very hard to take down, even though your Serrals and your Reynors might be able to. They're going to have to work really hard for it. PvT was what I was expecting him to get eliminated for in this tournament. But if you can, like I say, find a way to make his PvT a little more solid, then his chances go massively up. All right, guys, we're getting to the very bottom of the list. 2 Protoss players left. We've got Trigger, the hero of America. Where the hell do we put Trigger? I have not seen enough of Trigger's play recently, so let's start with his stats. All right, guys, so Trigger lost a recent series to Percival a month ago, 1-2. He lost a series to Young, 1-2 at Bellum Gens. Beat Future at Bellum Gens. Lost to Skillless at Bellum Gens. Not a great record in the last month. Very limited games to go off. But you've just got to say Trigger is kind of one of the newest StarCraft 2 pro gamers. Only really came into the pro scene about 6 years ago, which might sound like a long time, but it takes a long time to build experience in StarCraft, especially at live tournaments. And Trigger's still kind of on that road to improvement. He has these flashes of absolute utter brilliance where Trigger looks like such a fast multitasking god. But especially when he's trying to toe that line of greed in PvT in a tournament, it feels like guys like Byun who are veterans, guys like Kua who are veterans, are just going to lean even more into a simple kind of all-in, super committed attack. And they're just going to say, hey, I'm going to do a build that's a bit easier to commit to execute. And you're going to need to play really well to not die to this. They basically, this is something you often do in tournaments. You play a little bit different. You just kind of put more pressure on your opponent to play perfectly. And against anyone that's not like a Serral level player in terms of consistency, they often just make 1 or 2 more small mistakes because the nerves, the different setting, and maybe they're just not expecting you to play that way because you normally don't play that way in online tournaments. And now you're playing just that bit more all in, that bit extra committed. And that's where Trigger's biggest weakness is going to lie in PvT, but also in PvZ against guys like Solar and that sort of thing. I think he goes above Big Gabe in terms of performance, below Astrea, even though he did qualify beyond Astrea. I think his PvP is better than Astrea. His multitasking is better than Astrea. But I think Astrea has so many clever builds. So he's going to go in C tier for now. I'd love to see Trigger do really well. And like I said, flashes of brilliance. I just think when you're playing with the top 18 players in the world, you need such consistency to even get top 16, top 12. It's so hard at this tournament. And I think him making it to C tier is already a testament to how much he's improved over the years. I think Trigger's getting really good, and next year we might see him in B tier. Like I said, qualifying for the World Championship is already just a huge achievement. All right, guys, we've got Zoun. Our last player here. Zoun has moments where he's S tier in the last few months. I think overall he can't belong in S tier. Probably A tier, maybe B. Oh man, he has, you know, it depends who he matches with. All right, Zoun Zoun crushed at Home Story, didn't he? I think he won the entire tournament. Yeah, he dominated PvP. So Zoun's like the king of PvP. Yes, he lost a series to Showtime, but he beat Showtime, beat SOS, crushed Ryung, crushed Hero Marine. It wasn't the most stacked tournament, Home Story Cup, but it's still a really good thing to show how solid Zoun is. He lost a recent series to Cure, 4-2. He lost a series to Clem, 1-2. Beat Hero, lost to Classic, lost to Hero and GSL. Yeah, he ended up, beat Hero in the first series and barely lost his next 2 PvPs. A little tragic for Zoun in the GSL season 2. But yeah, he's had some close losses to Serral and Clem in Bellum Gens, where he got eliminated by, 2 of the very best players there. He's beat Serral in Bellum Gens as well, 2-0 before the rematch where Serral got him. I mean, there's some really good promise. Beating Cure 4-2, beating Beyond 3-1, beating Rogue 3-1. Zoun has had some amazing runs. Yeah, it would be a crime to not put him up here in A tier. I think he has a better chance than Solar, better chance than Reynor. I don't know if he has a better chance than Classic right now. I mean, there have been moments recently where he's ahead of all of these guys. He might be at the very top of A tier. Jeez, I don't know. I'm going to put him ahead of Cure for now, just behind Maru in A tier. I think Zoun can beat anybody in the tournament. I think Clem is going to be a nightmare for him because Clem, I think, will just overwhelm him with multitasking. I think Clem's realized when he plays Zoun, the trick is to just be so active he can't deal with it. If you're just making him micro in 3 places at once, like Clem just muscles his way through guys like Zoun. I think as long as Clem, if Zoun can force a slower match with less interaction, I think Clem will really struggle. Against Serral, he can take him down. I'd say Serral and Clem are still favored against him. I'd say Hero is still favored against him, even though he could take him down. I think Zoun, he's a very good player. Does he have the consistency of the S tier players? No, but I think his results in the last 6 months have been very good. He belongs in A tier for sure. All right, guys, I know that's been a very long list, but I really wanted to give just this entire preview thinking about, and for me, this is, I guess, research before the tournament, like, hey, what do I expect of players? And as I said, there's so many variables. Alright guys, well it's Pig from editing here, realizing I completely forgot to do an outro while doing this video live on stream. So, thanks so much for watching, I hope you appreciated the tier list. Let me know where I'm completely wrong, disagree with me, agree with me, let me know your takes down below, and also check the description, I'll put a link there for the tier list with my terribly selected photos if you want to go ahead and make one of your own and share it. Thanks so much for watching, EWC kicks off in about a week's time, so I'll see you all there. Thanks so much for watching, we'll catch you later. Goodbye and good night.